Once again, good afternoon and welcome to today's session, which will be presented by Dr. Sue Pather and her team from the University of the Western Cape. Before I invite Dr. Pather to present, let me just give a brief introduction of the presenters. Dr. Pather is currently the Teaching and Learning Specialist in the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic at the University of the Western Cape. She is UWC's Siaphumelela Lead. Dr. Pather coordinates the first year experience and the tutor program at the university. She is also the convener of the Tutor and Mentor Special Interest Group at TASA. Dr. Pather's research interests are located within the higher education field with particular focus on first-year student transition, support, retention, and success. Her extensive academic publications and academic presentations are also located in this field. She is involved in several national and international networks in first-year experience to advance student success in South Africa and her research agenda. Joining her will be Elizabeth Bowie, who is the institution's business analyst and the Siaphumelela coach also from the University of the Western Cape. And joining the two are the first-year transition officers who are all postgraduate students, and there are two researchers on the first-year experience team, Juliana and Browning. I invite you, Dr. Pather, and your team to make your presentation on the topic that participate in the first-year mentorship program.
Okay.
Dr. Pather, the platform is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you for joining us in this lunchtime session. And thank you, Ephraim, for that introduction. As you said, we will be joined by the phytos, who are postgrad students, and you could engage with them in the breakout groups, and also our two researchers. We are actually really excited to have this conversation with you all. It's a topic that we actually wanted to investigate, but didn't actually have a chance to, since this is a new project. So we're going to unpack this information together with you guys and have that conversation with you. So we're looking forward to that, and also to maybe come up with some kind of action plan from our discussions. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. And let's go to slideshow. Okay. Okay, so the question we want to interrogate and look at is, who are the students that participate in first year mentorship program? And the workshop outline, we're going to start with a quick icebreaker to get to know who's in the room with us today. And then I would briefly go over UWC's first year mentoring program, just give you a description of the program that we have, and the data that we collected to try and answer the question that we have in today's discussion. And then we're going to go over the findings with you in order to piece the puzzle together and look at who are the students that join the first year transition program. We would then go into our breakaway group, and you would have these discussions. We have a few questions that could guide the discussion, but you are free to bring up any kind of topic that you feel you have identified while listening to the data we present. And then the last 10 minutes, we'll come in and do a harvesting and sharing of the information. So a quick icebreaker, who's in the room? Please take a few seconds to write down in the chat box your name, your institution, and maybe your job title. Example, I've got Sue, UWC, Teaching and Learning Specialist. So that way we could actually see who's joining us. And welcome you. Welcome, Ronald from UWC, for your support. Okay, I could see UWC coming out first here, then UFS, UKZN. No prizes though. Thank you, colleagues, for joining in. Yeah. Okay, interesting. That's a good number. Okay, great. So now I got a second task for you. And I want you to think of 3 words that comes to your mind when you actually think of first year mentoring. What are 3 words that pops into your mind? I'm going to put onto the chat, Laurentia will put onto the chat the link at the bottom. You click on the link and just write down for us 3 words that comes to your mind related to first year mentoring. Okay, I'm going to count down in a few minutes and then close the poll. Okay, great. Thanks, colleagues. Thanks for filling this in. And you could see from the responses you were giving in the 3 words that that came to your mind that you were writing on the board. You could see support and guidance are the 2 most supported ones by most of the colleagues in this room. They're looking at what comes to mind immediately when you think of first year mentoring program. It's about supporting the first year students. It's about guiding the first year students. And then we also see transition, success, belonging also coming up quite a few times. Orientation is another one, empowerment and belonging as well. So thank you, colleagues, for that. And you can actually see some of the responses that would come up from our students themselves when we ask them to share their responses as to why they want to join the transition program. Elliot, are you admitting people in the room or should I do that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Okay, so the conceptualization of the first year mentoring program, it came about, it was data informed. It came about from 2 UWC surveys that we did. The first year expectation survey is done at the beginning of the year, prior to students actually joining UWC. When they get their acceptance letters, a link for the expectation survey is sent out to them. And then at the end of semester 1, they get an experience survey sent out, and we usually look at their expectation and experience survey to try and see how best we can help them, where are the gaps in what they expect and what they experience. And from these expectation surveys, we noticed that the question on social integration and looking at support, in their expectation, many of them had put down they would get support or make contact with their lecturers and the support services. But when they actually had, or we looked at the experience survey, we noticed a lot of them had then moved, and their first line of contact or support were their peers and mentors. And that's when we decided we should actually develop a mentoring program in which the students would be able to support their peers in the program. So the mentoring program started in 2019, and the main aim was to assist first-year undergraduate students with the necessary support to ensure successful first-year university transition. The goal of the transition program was to enhance first-year students' sense of belonging and connectedness, which will encourage them to stay and succeed at UWC. So the design of the program, we very much wanted to use students as partners in this. So we have students supporting students. And on the program is your first year transition officers. And those are postgraduate students at the beginning of their master's or PhD program. So that way they stay with us over 3 years and beyond. And the first year transition officers are located in the faculty that they are appointed in. And the mentors are also selected from the faculty, but the mentors are undergraduate students in the same faculties. And what we noticed is a lot of our mentees from 2019 have become our mentors in 2020 and 2021 this year. So the first year students are introduced to the program during the orientation week, where the FITOs would have a session in orientation slots and actually speak to the first year students about the first year transition program, which is the mentorship program, the benefits and how they could join. And students are then invited to be part of the program. So they would volunteer, they would actually have an email that would be sent to them in which they could click on the link and complete the application form to be part of the mentorship program. The mentorship program in 2019, when we started off, what was important was the mentoring circles, where students will meet in a group of 4 or 5 students in a group once a week during lunchtime and chat about their experiences and their concerns so that others could hear their experiences and know that they're not alone. And it also allows them to make friendships as well. Besides the mentoring circles, we also have one-on-one consultations with them, and then the FYE talks. The FYE talks comes about from the application form that they fill in. They also will jot down areas in which they need support and skills that are needed. So the FYE talks comes from that. And with COVID-19, then the FYE talks moved online, which happens bi-weekly during lunchtime once again. And what was added on from last year was our social media engagement, where we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And that is a very structured program. Actually, it's a conversation for another day on how that came about and the structured program we have and a timetable that we follow and what topics to put on at what time and those types of things. So when we looked at to understand who are the students joining, seeing that it's a voluntary program, we decided to look at the students' application forms that they fill in. And for 2020, we had 524 students that completed the application form. And then we also looked at the online feedback survey that they completed at the end of the year, which was a total of 100 students that completed that experience survey. And we looked at the mentors evaluation survey. The mentors fill in a reflective report at the end of the year. So we decided to look at the mentors reports as well in order to try and understand who joins the first year transition program. I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth Boy now, who's going to go over the data we received from the 524 applications. Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you, Sue. When we looked at the students who applied and joined the mentorship program, we saw that they come from different backgrounds. So before I can go through this data, I just want to give you a highlight in terms of what UWC data look like. So at UWC, we register about 4,500 first-time entering students. We have about 18,900 undergraduate students, and the majority of our students are not residential students because we only have limited spaces in our residence. The highest enrolled undergraduate faculty is EMS, followed by arts, then science and CHS. And you will see when I speak about the data just now, how reflective that the same type of people who join the program reflect the same type of our students at UWC. So in terms of also the race structure of the students that we have at UWC, we have mostly colored students, followed by African students, then the rest of other population group. So from those students who registered to be part of the mentorship program, we saw that the majority of students who applied were African students, followed by the colored students. And we also saw that most of the students who registered for the program were females. They were not in residence, and also most of them comes from the Western Cape, which also the demographics of UWC, we register most of the students who come from the Western Cape, then Eastern Cape. And we also saw from the reflection of the data that came from the application. And with regards to the age group, there is not much, but what came or is a highlight is that not only those who are first time entering, young students coming through and do the application, but we also saw that those with senior age, I mean like those with age between 21 to 35 were also part of the program. So we cannot only say this is only those students who will seek mentorship program came from directly from high school. So we saw that they are also older age students. So you can move to the next slide. We also saw in terms of the faculty, the distribution of, next slide Sue, the distribution of the enrollment in terms of faculty wise, it was fairly distributed, as we saw that the majority of UWC first undergraduates are from arts, science and EMS. And we also saw that most of the students who also seek help comes from those kind of faculties. But now what alerted us mostly as well is the law faculty and the education faculty, which also had so most of the students coming from those faculties seeking assistance. We also have foundation students who also seek assistance. At UWC, we only register about 1,000 foundation students, and here we could see also that only close to about 100 or so of those students seek assistance in terms of the mentorship program. When we looked at where do they come from in terms of the type of schooling, At UWC as well, based on the demographics of the type of students we get or who enrolls at UWC, we know that the majority of our students comes from quintile 4 and 5. And the data also didn't give us any alarming sight, because we could see that also the majority of students who seek advice or who were applying to be part of the program came from quintile 3, 4, and 5. And we also looked at the APS score that they came with. And at UWC as well, because you need to also look at the rationale, reflecting back to the population that you pick this data from. So at UWC, we also actually have most of the majority of our first-time entering students come to UWC with an APS score of about 38 to 45%. And here also we could see that most of those who seek help, they are from, they had the APS score of that much, of above 38. We also looked at the end of first year, we looked at their grade point average, which is their first year average mark, just to look at the quality of mark or the quality of pass that they got from the program. Not that because of the program they got that, but we just wanted to see how well did they perform on average. And we saw that the majority of the students who were part of the mentorship program, they actually did well, because their average pass mark, the majority of them did get more than 60% average pass. And Sue, I'm going to hand over to you to go through the other type of data that we collected from the survey.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. So from that same survey, which was the application forms that they fill in, they have to write down for us why they would like to join the mentoring program. And from the word cloud, you could see that majority of them joined because they wanted some kind of academic support. They wanted to have a smooth transition into university, guidance, making new friends, and achieving their goals. So if you look on the right-hand side, we had actually those statements that they had given it to us, we had coded them and put them according to different themes. And then also, once again, grouping the themes. So you could see seeking academic support, some type of academic support was written by 322 students, and looking at transition, adjustment to university was 260 students. And then we had personal and emotional support, 78, achieving goals, and etc. So with this, we actually went one further, and then I wanted to give you examples of statements that were written by the students as for reasons for joining the program. And you could see here, an example is, a mentor will assist me with any struggles on campus, especially regarding assignments and exam preparations. They would help me around campus and questions on my modules. They also spoke about help me to understand what is required of me with the course I am doing. They spoke about transferring skills so that they would be able to understand their academic work better, and also to motivate them, for them to stay focused so that they could get high marks, and once again to support and encourage them. They spoke about social skills, making friends, study groups to assist with their study groups, and also looking at the physical aspect of campus, not getting lost on campus, helping them with directions, workloads, and those types of things. So these were some of the actual written quotes from the students with regards to their expectation of joining the mentorship program. So now we also decided to look at the mentors' narratives, their reflective reports on student support. And we had a total of 46 mentors in the program last year. And out of the 46, 22 of them had completed the reflective reports. That's a 48% response rate, which wasn't that bad. So from the mentors' reports, what we had picked up from there, the areas in which mentors had supported their students, a lot of them requested emotional support, or from the mentors looking at the requests that came and questions that were asked. It seems a lot of them were emotional support, although you saw in the previous one, many of them mentioned that they would be seeking academic support from their students. But we noticed from the engagement, the actual experiences that we had, they were requesting more emotional support and basic needs, asking about accommodation, food, transport, and financial aid. So, and then lastly, we got academic support, 23%, What we also noticed from the mentors reports and FITO's reports is that different types of support was requested at different phases in the academic year. So right at the beginning of the academic year, in the first 6 weeks, the support that the mentors and the FITOs were dealing with and addressing at that time was basic needs, accommodation, food, transport, financial aid. In that first 6 weeks, those were the main queries that students were coming to the FITOs and the mentors to ask about. And then obviously it was a lot of emotional support. And once that seems to settle down with accommodation and food and transport, academic support then seems to take over, which is much later past the 6 weeks. And that's a concern for us, because when students come in, it's important for them to have that academic support right at the beginning. They shouldn't be dealing with a basic need support with accommodation, food, transport, which takes up a lot of their time before they begin to focus on academic support. So those were the conversations that came out from the mentors and the FITO's reflective report. And remember, when the students joined in 2020, we were face to face. And then all of a sudden, in March, mid-March, we had COVID happened and we went online. And we noticed that the additional support needed by the students had slightly changed. Then they were requesting from April onwards, support in adjusting to online learning. Career advice and program changes came about by the end of that semester, beginning of the next semester, because by this time students had got their marks back, and some of them that had done badly wanted to know about program change, career advice, and then also the big question on data and devices so that they could engage online. A lot of questions: where could they get data from, applying for devices, and those types of queries mentors and FITOs were dealing with. Then if we look at the mentees at the end of the year, this is from their experience. We asked them to complete a survey, feedback survey at the end of the year. And from the 524 mentees on the program, we had 104, actually it's 104 with duplications, 100 of them that had completed this survey. And you'd notice what they had written down, that academic support was something. We looked at effective support offered by the mentors, and they had put down academic support as the highest. 24% of them had put down academic support is what they were satisfied with or effectively received from the mentors. And the second highest was mental and emotional support. And when we compare this to our 2019 survey of student feedback, mental and emotional support was right down on the scale. And the first was academic support. The second was transition to university, and then motivation and guidance. But here you see with COVID, what had popped up right to the top was mental and emotional support, and the transition to university seemed to have went further down. Once again, if we look at statements that they had given us in this feedback survey, a lot of these statements speak to the mental and emotional support and also the connectedness at university. So for example, it says, online learning was new to me and I had no idea what was going on. And if it hadn't been for the mentoring program, I don't think I would have been able to catch up and cope, as it also helped me mentally and not just academically. So that's an example. And if you go further down, the second last one, it has made me feel like I was on campus. I was able to interact with some students with the guidance of my mentor. The sessions brought me back to the spirit of my academics. So yeah, these were examples from the students. And then my last slide I'm going to go to is we asked about improvements. What do mentors would like to see in the program? And most of them said the current program actually works well. But I think we have to look at the other points which are quite important for us to now focus on that. They spoke about increased time and sessions with mentees, encourage holistic approach to mentoring. And that seems to be a big problem, because a lot of the time students were sent to different units to ask for support and help. And that actually created a problem. So they were talking about, can we have an holistic approach where everything is located in one place and we don't need to tell our stories 10 or 11 times to different people every time we go to a different service for support. And the other two make use of online video calling platforms, and they prefer the online campus experience, which was a small number, not a big number. So in conclusion, colleagues, what I would like to highlight is that the first year mentoring program is relatively new at UWC. It started in 2019. It's the first time that we are presenting this data. We've just been collecting this data, and it's the first time we will be examining it collectively. We have never had these discussions on who participates in the mentorship program at our institution. And we are therefore hoping that today's discussion would help us to understand the persona of the mentee who seeks support, and maybe some kind of action plan that moving forward to support our first year students. So with that, I'm just going to share with you the breakout room discussion guiding questions that we have. When you go into your room, maybe you could tackle one or two or even all if you want, but whatever comes to you first, whatever comes to mind that you want to talk about, we're happy to have those discussions. And question number one, if you look at that, based on the information shared, can we identify the persona of a student who is likely to seek assistance? What are their characteristics? Also for us, if you could just maybe mention in the groups when you get into the group, what was surprising information for you that you found from this data that you didn't expect that type of student or that kind of information to be shown? What information was expected or unexpected information that interested you? Also, what are the practices and policies known to institutions that can streamline to effectively support students? Do policies speak to each other? Do they support the process or create more confusions for the students and support groups? And then the last one, we thought, what are your thoughts about the funneling of UWC's first year mentorship program? Are there suggestions on how to improve the process? Should there be funneling of who gets into the program? And those types of questions. So Elias, I think we're going to open it up now and have our discussion in the room. We should be 10 minutes. I think we've given 20 minutes for discussion, and then the last 10 minutes back again. Thank you, colleagues. So Elias, we can just join.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the groups are open now.
Am I in group 1? I'm trying
One.
to. Okay, good.
Yes,
Thanks.
you are in group 1.
Thank you.
Okay.
Your discussion. And I'm wondering, anybody wants to go first to talk about their discussions in their rooms? We should have 4 feedback sessions or feedback remarks. Any takers?
I'll start, Dr. Betha.
Ante, go ahead.
Okay. So I was in group 3 with Juliana and a few other participants. Unfortunately, I didn't see all the names, but yeah, I made notes. And regarding the first question about the characteristics and the persona of the students, so I think it was Melanie from UFS that stated that instead of having mentors, they have success coaches. And when the success coaches moved online during COVID, they would touch base on specific topics, so such as time management, and the students really appreciated the connection through blackboards, and even if it was just a phone call. And so the students really appreciated that interaction. And Melanie also said that at UFS they have a very strong academic services, instead of engaging with mentors specifically. And so they maybe need to look at that and how they can possibly engage with mentors on a holistic basis as well. And then when we were speaking about the characteristics of the students that would usually come and ask for these services were those that want to seek assistance because they might not have the necessary devices and so forth. And this just shows that students are resilient and they want to learn. And so they are making this interaction with the success coaches. And then in terms of question 2, the practices and policies, we said that we should focus on the holistic development and should build strong communications between departments, and give one voice to students instead of working in silos in different departments. And there was a point raised where surveys are sent out, and surveys from different departments might be on the same thing. And students usually get bombarded with so many surveys. So instead of sending out numerous surveys, why don't we just work collaboratively and generate a well thought out survey that could be sent from the institution holistically, and then the different departments can take whatever data they need from that survey, or which is applicable to their department.
Thanks, Shante.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
If Juliana wants to add, she can.
Important. Juliana, we have to give time to the others. We'll come back to you guys if we have some time for you. Can we have some voices from the other groups, please? We had group.
Hi, Dr. Petha.
Yes, Michelle.
I'll go next. And we were in room 4 or group 4. And our question 1 took up quite a lot of time, was a lively discussion. And first of all, Shirley noted that the group noted that there wasn't really any major shocks in terms of the data that was presented. And she highlighted the fact that students normally come to campus, first-year students normally come to campus with a lot of fears. And they normally, staff have a perception that students normally don't know what they want. However, students normally are just in need of confidence, and normally the first year transition program is where they start finding it. Sometimes they're just looking for a friendly face, and she'd refer to the library, or just somebody to guide them in what they want to know and where they need to go to. So Loshni made a very good point in terms of what happens within their faculty. She said that at UFS, they basically have 920 students within a particular faculty, and they have based their program on diversity, and they have the engagement is voluntary, and so students can basically decide if they want to partake. It has got a layer support system, and it is geared towards mostly previously disadvantaged community. But what they have noticed is that it's not always that those from the previously disadvantaged community take up the support. And I think one thing that we all agreed on was that the consistency of students staying in this program sort of dwindles as you go along. And we thought about what could we do differently to keep them in the program. And the ratio, we also talked about the mentee and mentor ratio, which some universities have 1:18, and UWC has more or less a similar ratio to them. We also spoke about the UFS 101 compulsory degree module that they have. And this module is compulsory for degree completion purposes. So students appreciate the fact that they have somebody that they can connect with. In question 2, we basically spoke at building a program that make support for students much easier. And in question 3, I'm just going to run through it quickly, is that there was highlighted that we need to look at the early warning systems. And also, I think in this case, we need to look at APS scores.
Sue, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Michelle, for that. Can we have the other group? I'm just trying to put our group. I think, Elizabeth, is that your group, the next group that needs to report?
Okay, I can report on behalf of on the group 2.
Yeah.
We actually didn't discuss question number 1. We didn't look at the persona, but we looked at the practices and policies. And then we also looked at the last question where it talks about the funneling or the marketing. In terms of the policies and practices, one suggestion or one comment that came through was from UF, where they spoke about that in their university, there is not really an alignment in terms of what is happening with the first year experience program, and also the I think there is the advisor program as well. So one is housed in student affairs and one is housed in CTL. So the comment was if they could find an alignment into some of these services so that then they are not working in siloed, which was good, because I also made a reference in terms of at UWC, we also do have the first year experience program that is run out of the DVC academics line. And we also have the second year mentoring program, which is run by SDS. So if we could also find an alignment in terms of policies and practices that happens within the institution, so that when we speak to a student, they don't get different messages, they know we talk about the common thing. And also one thing that also came out in our discussion was the case that mental health issues was one of the major area that students seek advice on. And this was mainly, and the comment came through to say, maybe probably there should be some discussion around this, and it needs to be prioritized in terms of how do we assist the students with the mental health issues. And I think in this year, Pumelela, we do have a work stream on mental health issues, and I think in the coming years or weeks, we might hear some program or some workshops where everybody can come around the table and discuss about mental health issues of students. The other comment that came through was in terms of the funneling. So we wanted to also to benchmark and see what other institutions are doing in terms of recruitment of students into the mentorship program or such programs. UWC spoke about their how did their program work, because they said they started first with the residence base, so inviting everybody who's in the residence, and then they spoke about also that after they the following year, after they did the residence, the following year they branched out into the day residence program where they invited those who are not in residence to be part of it. Whereas at UWC, we do the marketing during the orientation, and we invite students to be part of the discussion. And then Koo said it's very complex, so she will think about it and she will let us know how at UKZN they will think about how do they do the recruitment of students, because I think it's a complex thing. Who do we let in and who do we not let in? And we don't want to also force a student. And I think also this talks to the type of student who will require assistance, because we always make an assumption that we know who will seek advice or who will seek help. And we get a surprise when we see that those we thought that they might look for or they might need advice, they don't look for it, even though we know that they might need it, but they don't look for it. So it's a long discussion that we can have, but those are summary things. Oh, the other thing that came up was during those first year mentorship program, do the graduate attributes get translated or gets transferred during those? Do students come out of that with graduates attributes? I couldn't answer it. We mumbled around. So if anyone knows if any program during the first year experience where they are able to transfer, because these are still students as well learning, how do they transfer those or make sure that when they finish the mentorship program, they have those graduate attributes? One of the examples that I used was probably maybe one of the major things will be in the mentorship cycles, they might be using critical thinking, because they will not just meet for an hour to just discuss tea and coffee, but they will think critically around issues and try and assist one another. So
yeah, thanks for that, Elizabeth. I think we haven't put it down explicitly in the program where we say we're going to look at the graduate attributes. But if we look at UWC graduate attributes, we can find links and say, okay, we've done this, done that, but we haven't explicitly mentioned it to them. So thanks, colleagues, for your time. The last few seconds I'm going to take just to go over my group, and you guys can just jump in whenever you want to. But we spoke about, firstly, Kwasi mentioned that the high performing students, that was a bit of a surprise. And I mentioned it to him as well. We were also quite surprised because it's the first time we looked at the data, and our assumption were it was students that actually needed support, or it wasn't your APS scores, students with high APS scores that joined in. So that was one thing we spoke about. The other thing we spoke about was mentors and mentees. We noticed that a majority of the mentors and mentees were females. So it's something we need to look at to even get male mentors to assist, and maybe we'll get more male mentees as well joining the program. And then Danny from UCT spoke about, mentorship, students being overwhelmed with mentoring because there's so many different mentoring programs, which is actually true. A few weeks ago, we had academic week, and when different faculties were reporting, we realized they all seem to have mentoring program in their particular modules. So, you know, there's so many different mentoring programs, and students do get overwhelmed because they would go to one mentoring program for academic support and another mentoring program for social support and those types of things. So once again, it's bringing out those silos, working in silos. And UKZN actually gave us a good example of their mentoring program in the health sciences program. So yeah, overall, I think there was great discussions, and I think we're going to close the session maybe 1 minute more if anybody wants to highlight or mention anything before we say goodbye. Thank you all for joining, and also hopefully we see all of you again tomorrow. Ephraim, do you want to take over?
Thank you very much, Dr. Patha, and your entire team. That was great. And thank you very much, everybody else, for attending. I hope we have a few cues that we take back home with from this presentation. We have another webinar tomorrow at the same time. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, colleagues.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.